Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Cannabis Podcast. My name is Athena Lumsden, and in this podcast, I go over my Practical Cannabis Guidebook, page by page, giving you the tools you need to customize your own cannabis experiences. Today, we are going to kick things off with the basics of the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS for short. This is referencing pages 2 and 3 for those of you following along in the book. Don't worry though, you don't need the book to enjoy the podcast, but odds are you're going to want a copy of your own. Medical cannabis. For the record, I am a medical cannabis patient of a rather high dose, which means you will be seeing and or hearing me using my medication during this recording. I have my standard kit available because I never know what I'm going to need. I have my infused tea, my lotion, my cough drops, my lip balm, and my inhalable. Today, that's a bong filled with Godzilla glue. It's lovely. I don't know what the exact terp profile of it is, but I can smell the beta-carotene and the pinene and this rich earthiness with just a hint of sweetness. And that gives me the calm focus and mobility that I need to do this well, which is really, really great because my natural state does not contain any of those. So, gotta love it, and I'm enjoying it. And I appreciate your patience with my use because, oh my God, I wouldn't be able to do it without it. Today, I'm going to be talking about what an endocannabinoid system is and what it does, the jargon around it, because how are we supposed to take care of something properly if we don't know what it is or what it does, why the ECS is important, what happens if it isn't working as needed, and we're going to wrap it all up with, the role of cannabis in all of this, and then wrapping it all up with the differences between medical and recreational cannabis. Just a quick reminder here, I am a great researcher and problem solver, but I am not a doctor, and this is not medical advice. It is simply information that I feel we all have a right to know. If you feel that this resonates with your own personal health concerns, please talk to your primary care practitioner and, get yourself taken care of and see if a medical cannabis prescription is right for you. So what is an endocannabinoid system? Well, the functionality of the human body is reliant on many systems. Your heart relies on the cardiovascular system, the respiratory takes care of your lungs, digestive processes your food, so on and so forth. The endocannabinoid system is simply another system that we are born with that helps keep our bodies working smoothly, and its job is maintaining homeostasis, which is literally the job of making sure that everything runs smoothly. It's in charge of keeping things on track. It does this by producing compounds called endocannabinoids. Endo means inside, and cannabinoid is just the name of that particular molecule. Okay. Specifically, our bodies make AEA and 2-AG. These will then arrive at receptors called cannabinoid receptors, or CB1 or CB2 for short. And CB1 receptors tend to be found on our nervous system and in our brains, while CB2 tends to be found in our muscles and our organs. But these receptors are located throughout your entire body, and they are what gives the signals for us to start or stop a function. To sum that up, it means that these compounds are how your body regulates every function that it has. And when I say every single function, I mean it. We're not just talking about pain relief and inflammation. We're also talking about things like executive function, digesting our food, or the ability to process the stressors of our environment, both physically and mentally. You don't even have to take my word for it. According to Dr. Peter Grinspoon of Harvard Medical, the ECS regulates and controls many of our most critical bodily functions, such as learning, memory, emotional processing, sleep, temperature control, pain control, inflammatory responses, immune responses, and eating. To make it really clear what all of that actually means. If your body was a house, it would not be a cute little 2-bedroom in suburbia, okay? It would be a massive mansion with hundreds upon hundreds of rooms, because every single function that your body has its own room. And by biological default, the door to that room is locked. And frankly, it has to be. For your body to stay safe and healthy, it must be locked and available to open. So when it comes time for your body to use that function, it sends out a little delivery guy with an endocannabinoid key to open that door, say, hey, let's get this done. And then when he's done, he uses another key and he closes that door and moves on. And it works. The right keys at the right door at the right time, and everything just works. It's beautiful. But what happens if it isn't working as it's needed? Like, what happens if those keys aren't showing up? What happens if they're stuck in the locks? What if there's no key made in the first place to show up? Well, when your house is on fire, the smoke detector goes off, right? And when your body is in distress, it activates the alarms of pain, inflammation, anxiety, or even rage. A body without enough cannabinoids cannot maintain itself, let alone fight off a bad environment or a health challenge. So if your ECS is dysfunctional, you're likely suffering from things like pain, inflammation, insomnia, mood swings, just to name a few. But fundamentally, you're looking at dysregulation of your body's functions. And if you want to learn more about what a dysfunctional ECS looks like, tune in next time where I go over the signs and symptoms of a distressed endocannabinoid system and what steps you can take to take care of your own. So, why does the lack of cannabinoids feel so awful? Well, I actually feel that the body's responses here are fairly reasonable because it triggers off our what do we need to survive mechanisms. You see, we need food, we need water, we need air, and we need cannabinoids for our bodies to work properly. And the big difference between cannabinoids and the others is that a healthy body is supposed to make its own. And we were never taught to listen for this kind of hunger. So it's kind of similar to vitamin D. Your body's supposed to make its own and it frequently fails to do so. And to prevent that from impacting our health in a negative way, we'll take a supplement. So, just how common is a dysfunctional ECS? Well, when you consider that a healthy ECS is required for basic functionality, then we can assume that anyone that is struggling with a health concern is automatically having some kind of issue with their ECS. That makes it really hard to pin down exact numbers of people who are suffering from this. But we do know that as per the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, that there's an average of 1 in 5 employed people in North America who are disabled. And that means that whether you can see it or not, because many of us who are disabled do not report our disabilities, and we will actively hide our signs and symptoms because there is a great deal of social stigma and risk attached to exposing that you're disabled. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is true. But it means that 1 out of every 5 employed people out there are suffering significantly enough to openly admit that they have a disability. From there, I'd really like to consider as well just how many more people may be suffering from lesser but still significant issues such as stress, anxiety, lack of sleep, stiffness, or poor mood regulation, because all of those functions are directly reliant on having enough cannabinoids in their system. So, where does cannabis come in to all of this? Well, if we need cannabinoids so badly, and our bodies aren't making them the way that they should be, the only reasonable response is to find a way to supplement these compounds with something in our diets. And luckily enough, there's this amazing plant out there, and it is chock full of dozens upon dozens of plant-based cannabinoids called phytocannabinoids, and it's safe to eat, inhale, and put on our skin. So we can apply it in the way that works best for us as individuals. So cannabis is just an edible plant that's not only rich in phytocannabinoids, but has many varieties available for custom use. And I keep bringing up individuality for a very good reason. Because each of our ECSs are in a unique state of repair, we can't actually gauge how sensitive it might be to phytocannabinoids until we've actually tried it and found our own fit. But, that's what my book is for. So, in keeping with my house example, if you are lucky enough to have a healthy ECS, it's like your house has an endocannabinoid powered doors and they just have this VIP access card and it's so shiny and you don't even register that your house has doors because everywhere you go is smooth. Everything is just open and you've never had anything in your way. However, if you have a dysfunctional ECS, you have to deal with every door in your house being locked and stuck at all times. And your options are either to start making holes in the walls or using this giant honking keychain with dozens of plant-based keys on it. And I mean, they work, but you have to learn what does what for you the hard way. And this is a much harder path than having that very shiny VIP pass card. But with time and attention, you really can learn which keys unlock which doors and what kind of application methods work best for your life. And once you've got that, you become unstoppable. And I know it sounds silly, but learning and fulfilling my own cannabinoid needs helps me feel healthier, happier, and more me than I have ever been on any other medication or therapy or treatment option. Ever. So, if it's a fundamentally good for you kind of supplement, what's the big difference between medical and recreational cannabis? I mean, if it's so good for you, shouldn't it all be considered medical? And the answer is a great big no. Although fundamentally having the cannabinoids is definitely better than not having the cannabinoids. Now, there's a lot of resources out there. They're going to try to tell you that CBD has medical value while THC is for fun. And I strongly, strongly disagree. While caution is definitely warranted around psychoactive responses, that doesn't mean that there aren't many many benefits offered by THC. And I know personally that a CBD only regime is insufficient for my needs. I mean, like this right here is a very high THC cultivar, and I've been using it all day, and I am not even remotely close to high. But of course, that's me and my system. I know many other people who couldn't even come close to using that much. But you got to do what's right for you. Okay? Other resources, they're going to try to say that if you use the oil or edibles, then it's medical. And if you're smoking it, well, then that's recreational. And I obviously have to disagree with that one as well. And that's because different application methods do different things, and they have different onset times. So if I am suffering from a massive panic attack that was triggered off from my PTSD, I am going to use an inhaled version because it works immediately, like immediately. Whereas if I have my edible, if I'm using my edible, I have to wait for hours for that to kick in, like literal hours. And asking me to wait for hours and sit in that level of suffering for a stigma, for a whatever, it's unacceptable. If that's the right version to use at that time, that's the one that I'm going to use. Period. My medication is not up for debate. So if it isn't about that stuff, then what is the difference? Well, it's you, right? It's you, how responsible you are about your consumption, and the intention that you bring to its use. If you were to pick up a bong, just like this one, and you're going to pack it with your favorite herb, and you're going to spark it up so that it can help you with your basic functionality, and the fact that it's fun is a bonus, a wonderful bonus, then your use is medical. Okay? But if you pick up this exact same bong with this exact same herb and you spark that bad boy up, and your intention is to have fun, and, the fact that you might sleep better that night, or whatever the benefits of that particular cultivar may be, is just a bonus, well, then your use is recreational. And if you're using so much of it that instead of supplementing your system, you're kind of overwhelming it and beating it with a club until it's fallen into submission, gotta say that's recreational too. And while it can definitely be fun, I wouldn't recommend doing it too often. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Speaking of helping me with my focus, now, this is really important, the understanding the difference therein. Because when I was a kid, I was taught that if you were having fun taking your medication, then you were courting danger. Like you were in a bad space. Because, many medications are, addictive or poison if you have too much of it. A little bit is medicine, a lot of it is poison. I heard that a lot growing up. And so I was very, very cautious when I got my cannabis prescription in the first place, because I was truly afraid that if I took just even a tiny bit more than I was supposed to, that I was just going to fall into the well of awfulness forever and risk all kinds of horrible things. And it's just not true with cannabis. It just doesn't apply in the same way as the cautions that I was receiving as a kid about medications, because cannabis isn't really so much a medicine or a drug as much as it is a food. So it still has a lot of, caution is still definitely warranted. but it really messed with my ability to use my prescription. And it took me a lot longer to figure things out and what my personal fit was, because I was busy being afraid of it, and I did not need to be. And I find that intensely frustrating. So with all due respect and lots and lots of caution, I have to say that of course consuming cannabinoids feels good. I mean, eating a healthy meal, drinking cool water, and breathing fresh air all feel good too. And they all feel good for the same reason. Our bodies are built to encourage us to do more of what it needs. So when you have the right balance of cannabinoids, it should make you feel more like yourself and not less, So if your cannabis use is pushing you around, just know that you haven't found your fit quite yet, and that it's okay to keep exploring. Alrighty, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I cannot wait for next time, where we go over the differences between a dysfunctional ECS and a bad day. And if you want to learn more, you can check out my website at athenalumsden.com. And if you like what you heard today, I invite you to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. I'll be back with a new installment soon. And until next time, I hope that you get to experience the freedoms that come with a fully supported endocannabinoid system.